Welcome. My name is Veronica, and I'll start off the Parkinson's Pack podcast by talking about the structure of Parkinson's disease, a chronic disease that affects the nerve cells in the brain that controls movement. Symptoms such as tremor, slowness, stiffness, and balance problems occur when dopamine-producing neurons die, a condition that affects nerve cells in deep areas of the brain termed as basal ganglia and substantia nigra. The neurotransmitter dopamine is produced by nerve cells in the significant nigra and is responsible for assisting communications that plan and govern the body activity.
Hello, I'm Alli. I will be talking about the function of the nervous system. The nervous system has three main functions, which include sensation, integration, and response. Sensation, which are the sensory function, involve receiving information about the body. So, the nervous system will receive information about the environment to gain insight on what's going on outside of the body, or maybe even what's going on within the body. And to do this, it uses the five senses, which are sight, touch, taste, smell, and hearing. So then the second function of the nervous system is integration, and during integration, the central nervous system processes the information received from the sensory functions. And then the third function of the nervous system is response, and this is like the motor functions. So the nervous system will activate a response based on the information perceived by the central nervous system. And so then responses can be broken up into two different categories: voluntary responses or involuntary responses. So the somatic nervous system controls voluntary responses, and the automatic nervous system controls involuntary responses. An example of a voluntary response is the contraction of skeletal muscles. And some examples of involuntary responses are the contraction of smooth muscles, regulation of cardiac muscles, and activation of glands.
Alright, I'm Caitlin, and I'm going to be talking about how homeostasis is maintained in the nervous system. How does the nervous system work to maintain homeostasis? The nervous system provides monitoring, response, and regulation of all systems in the human body. Homeostasis, as we know, is the state of steady internal conditions maintained by living things. Receptors are constantly monitoring conditions and watching for changes. When a deviation occurs, signals are sent through the nervous system, triggering responses to bring the system back to the normal range of functioning, or homeostasis. The nervous system is the major controlling, regulatory, and communication system in the body, the center of all cognitive activity, thinking, learning, and memory, and works with the endocrine system to regulate and maintain homeostasis. Maintaining homeostasis requires that the body continuously monitor its internal conditions. From body temperature to blood pressure to levels of certain nutrients, each physiological condition has a particular set point. A set point is the physiological value around which the normal range fluctuates. A normal range is the restricted set of values that is optimally healthful and stable. The nervous system uses negative and positive feedback loops to maintain homeostasis. For instance, if you are hot, your autonomic nervous system sends signals to your integumentary system to sweat. When you cool down, this stops. This is an example of negative feedback, and it's a homeostatic reaction. The body maintains homeostasis for many factors. Some of these include body temperature, blood glucose, and various pH levels. Homeostasis is maintained at many levels, not just at the level of the whole body, as it is for temperature. The autonomic nervous system regulates the internal organs through two divisions, the sympathetic and parasympathetic systems. They are responsible for involuntary control of the body. Sensory input can come from internal or external stimuli. The sympathetic system is your fight or flight reactions. Your parasympathetic system is rest and digest. Homeostasis is a balance between these two systems. The nervous system maintains homeostasis by controlling and regulating the other parts of the body. A deviation from a normal set point acts as a stimulus to a receptor, which sends nerve impulses to a regulating center in the brain. The portion of the brain that maintains the body's internal balance, or homeostasis, is the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is the link between the endocrine and nervous systems. It produces releasing and inhibiting hormones, which stop and start the production of other hormones throughout the body.
Alrighty, my name is Sierra, and I will be doing the next segment of the podcast on what exactly our disease is and how it and other lifestyle choices can affect homeostasis in the nervous system. I want to start off by saying what exactly Parkinson's disease is and how it affects the body. Parkinson's disease is a neurodegenerative disorder that affects a person's ability to control movement. This is caused by a large amount of neurons that produce dopamine in the brain, specifically in the basal ganglia, to either die or become impaired. The lack of dopamine caused by the damage creates problems within the basal ganglia, which is an area of the brain responsible for body movements. People with Parkinson's also tend to lose another major neurotransmitter known as norepinephrine, which is responsible for some of the body's autonomic functions such as digestion, heart rate, blood pressure, and breathing. However, this disease doesn't happen all at once, but slowly over time, which can make it very hard to diagnose and shows clear stages of its development. The four main stages are the early stage, mid to late stage, and advanced stage. These stages are marked by worsening symptoms, lack of control, and the need for more help in managing the illness, with the beginning stages having mild symptoms to the late stages having to be bed or wheelchair bound due to the lack of control and worsening of symptoms. The main symptoms include tremors, slowness of movement, rigid muscles, stiff limbs, unsteady walk, imbalance issues, as well as coordination problems, muscle twisting, spasms, and cramps, a stooped posture, decreased facial expression, speech or vocal changes, handwriting changes, depression and anxiety, chewing and swallowing issues, drooling, urinary problems, mental difficulties, memory problems, hallucinations and delusions, constipation, skin problems such as dandruff, loss of smell, sleeping disturbances, which include disrupted sleep, acting out your dreams, and restless leg syndrome, pain, lack of interest, fatigue, change in weight, vision, and low blood pressure. Since there are many symptoms and the progression is so slow, this disease can be extremely difficult to diagnose because of its symptoms aligning with other disorders or look like natural aging problems, making it hard to catch. In spite of all these issues, there are some treatment options from medications to surgical options to even other therapies like physical, occupational, or speech to help manage the symptoms. However, there are still no cure or preventative measures that can be taken because the disease is not well known. We know when it comes to Parkinson's, there are two main forms of it: early onset and late onset Parkinson's. In early onset Parkinson's, it is thought that some genes that are passed on are responsible for leading to the disease to form in certain people. However, since early onset patients account for only 2 to 10% of cases, it is thought unlikely to be the only cause of the disease. Yet, in the brain cells of many Parkinson's patients, Lewy bodies or clumps of the protein alpha-synuclein have been found, which have led some to start studying how this protein functions and the role it plays in genetic mutation as well as other illnesses. A few studies out there show that mitochondrial homeostasis, synaptic homeostasis, and synaptic protein homeostasis could all be factors in how the disease occurs. To begin with, an accumulation of dysfunctional proteins because of mutations in multiple genes causes the impairment and eventual death of the synaptics and the whole neuron as well. Also, there may be defects in the synaptics themselves that can lead to neuron death. Another part of this is that there may be a disruption of the mitochondrial homeostasis. The disruption is caused by the gene mutations that occur in Parkinson's, which affects or prevents the fission and other processes to occur, and the additional proteins needed to help in these processes are also disrupted. Nevertheless, some think it's a mixture of both environmental and genetic circumstances that lead to the formation of Parkinson's disease. A few people are starting to do studies to see what environmental issues could be leading to Parkinson's, which include pesticides, head injuries, air pollution, diet and lifestyle choices, caffeine, cooking meat, vitamin D, exercise, and exposure to heavy metals. These mixed environmental factors may account for 90 to 95% of cases. Environmental factors like lifelong coffee, tea, and alcohol consumption, smoking, physical activity, exposure to pesticides, heavy metal, and air pollution, as well as diet, can all have negative and positive impacts on your chances of getting Parkinson's disease and homeostasis in the nervous system overall. In some studies, it showed coffee and tea, exercise, and a healthy diet all help people in the long run as well as people with the disease. The studies also convey that alcohol, smoking, poor diet, little exercise can all negatively affect the body and could leave someone with a higher likelihood that they may get Parkinson's or another disease. In other studies, it showed that exposure to pesticides, heavy metal, and air pollution, along with head injuries, could all be things that could lead to illness, but specifically Parkinson's as well. However, Parkinson's is not a well-known disease and is still in the process of being studied. The parts of the disease that are the least understood are on how it forms and what causes it. So it is very hard to say what can leave you predisposed to Parkinson's disease, but all of these factors can change or affect the fluctuating chemicals and different areas of the brain, which could affect homeostasis overall.
About 10 million people worldwide have Parkinson's disease. We decided to compare the population of patients with Parkinson's disease in the United States to that same population in the United Kingdom. In the United States, about 930,000 people are living with Parkinson's disease, and approximately 60,000 new cases are diagnosed each year. As of the year 2020, the UK has approximately 145,000 people with Parkinson's disease. The population of Parkinson's is clearly much larger in the United States than it is in the UK. While researching Parkinson's, we also discovered that males are about 50% more likely to get Parkinson's disease than females. It is most commonly seen in persons ages 60 or older. However, up to 10% of patients are diagnosed before age 50.